Okay. Hey, my name is Miss, and I got something to show you. Perhaps some of you know this, perhaps some of you had done some tests, perhaps some of you got a solution for this, but I did some rendering today and something got me wondered. I'm currently working on this project here with this little tower that is doing various animations. Right here it is DJing, and I got some stuff where it's playing guitar and keyboard and whatnot. This is for an animation, and I'm rendering this at 1920 by 1080 as pretty normal, I think, and I'm rendering it at 200 samples. So fooling around with this a bit, I come to thought that what happens if I want to render this at extremely high resolution? What would happen? Currently I have an, let's check, I have an RTX 1060 with 8 GB of memory. Let's check here. Let's see, dedicated memory, 8 GB. Okay, and I use a GPU for rendering. However, when I press F12 to render, I can see in my current scene right now, it is addressing close to 2 GB of memory. So I thought, what happened if I needed to render this in a really high resolution? So I cranked it up a bit. Actually, I cranked it up 5 times. So I ended up at 1960 times 5400. So what happened to the memory? And the fun part is, when I do this, as you see here, I get, let's see, we zoom this in a bit, like this. When I render with the open denoiser at this resolution, it still uses about 2 GB of memory, but when it comes to the denoising part, it jumps to 8 GB, exactly 8.4 GB of memory usage, just because of the denoiser. So I thought, is this the denoiser doing this? So I disabled the denoise, and it used about 700 megabyte of memory. So I moved over to optics instead of the open denoiser. I moved to optics denoiser, and the render time here was approximately about the same. The memory was about 2 GB until the optic denoiser stepped in. Then it says it used 1800 megabyte, which in fact is 18 gigabytes of memory, which is a lot more than with the open denoiser. And also the time went from 6 minutes and 30 seconds to 7 minutes. So a little longer as well for rendering. So I thought, how about if I disable the optics render and I go into compositing instead in Blender and turn on the denoise data under layers and then add the denoiser in the compositor, like you see down. Let's have the compositor, there you go, like this. Right now it is disabled, but I enabled this and feed all the feeds through as I should. You know, if you go to layer here and denoise data, you get this down here. And then this of course goes into this one. What happens then is that, check this, then it took 4.5 GB of memory doing the rendering, and when it was finished So about 2.5 gigabyte more than before, and it used then close to 14 minutes to render, which is over double the time for rendering using the compositor denoise. So of course I know I could make the image big and then disable the denoiser, but then use more samples. However, if I want to find a good combination, it seems like when Blender is rendering, it just chops the image up to small parts, and it is not a problem. If I render in 1920 or I render in 9600, it still uses about 2 gigabyte. It doesn't matter. It's only until the denoiser kicks in then it eats a lot of memory, because it chops it into small pieces automatically. However, it seems it can figure out to do that while rendering, but not when denoising. So anyone know any good solution to this, or any optimization for this that does not mean cranking up samples like crazy, but having the possibility to balance samples and the denoiser of some sort inside Blender? It could be very fun to see if anyone of you have any experience about this and know any of these numbers that I'm showing right now. What do you think about it out there? Are there any other solutions? Is it possible to get it to cut up the denoiser for each part as well? Or what do you think out there? Let me know and write a message down here.